Well, hello there. It's another day. I'm Jim Harrington.
And I am Bill Knight. Happy Thursday to you. MSNBC, they got a windfall in ratings because, I guess they had to go to the, what do they call that in a herd? It's like
the herd mentality?
Cow. No, the head cow or something like that. Or
I think they call it the head cow.
yeah, the head cow or... in a herd of sheep, it's whatever it is. But they go to the lead sheep to sit there and guide the herd because their numbers have been in the toilet. But with the tariffs, going on, what's going on? We got to go to MSNBC. They saw some double-digit numbers, and they're bragging. Yeah, we've got one demo where we got 113,000 people. I'm like going, yeah.
Our podcast has more. Go ahead.
Yeah, you got that, and there's the head cow, Rachel Maddow, and I'm like going, okay, now what are you gonna do for an encore? Because he just tanked your all your content.
Oh, they had guest after guest saying things like, "Well, this is a critical decision on the part of the White House. It's going to tank our economy, and we may never recover. It may take us years to recover." And Trump, to his credit, just kept saying in public, hang in there, be patient, everything's going to be okay. And people, of course, on the left were saying, oh, he's being ridiculous,
It was okay yesterday, wasn't it?
Oh, I think it was historic yesterday.
Yeah, it was the highest it's gone since 2008.
Actually, this morning they said highest ever.
Highest ever?
Highest ever this morning. I thought, because I had heard yesterday 2008 too, but I heard that and the market was still active. So I listen, whatever it was an amazing day. I was thinking, boy, if you bought stock like the day before yesterday, dirt cheap, you became much wealthier by the end of the day yesterday because it went up big time.
Yeah, look, money, serious money was made yesterday. And, of course, Adam Schiff comes along. Oh, you need insider trading, which is such a weird, narrowly defined thing because...
Well, I got Adam is saying this. Listen.
How concerned are you with this market fluctuation? And are you concerned that there could be members of the White House that are benefiting from it?
Absolutely. I'm writing to the White House to demand who knew in advance that the president was going to once again flip-flop on tariffs. And are people cashing in? There is just all too much opportunity for people in the White House and the administration to be insider trading, and you can't put it past them for a minute. So we're going to try to find out.
There's a good chance they'll just ignore you, though, right? Should there be some other independent investigation into this?
Well, I think Congress should do an investigation into this, but we're going to demand answers from the administration. I think you're right. They're likely to stonewall, particularly if they've been engaged in corrupt insider trading. But they won't be able to hide it for good. I mean, we know who's in the administration. We can look at eventually what people are buying and selling. This will come out. But an administration that has their own meme coins and is already engaged in self-interested dealing when Elon is doging agencies that are doing oversight of their own businesses, in that kind of corrupt climate, you have to assume the worst, and we're going to try to find out.
Oh, listen, wait a second. We're talking about Adam. We're talking about Adam Schiff here. This is a guy who, by the way, he probably never thought about investigating the White House and insider trading until that reporter asked him the question, and his eyes lit up like, oh, wait a second, there's an opportunity here. This guy is, what was he, Bill? Yeah. He was a failed screenwriter.
Right, and you know what? You can't tell me because he went from, he wasn't making money, but then he got into politics, and now all of a sudden he's worth more than his salary dictates. So he buy stock. And you know what? Him to say, people inside of Congress like, oh, Republicans, they're dirty, and yes, they know everything. If you're inside the Beltway, if you're in the Senate, you're in the House, you kind of get a feeling for what's going on just by virtue of your position. You have a finger on the pulse. Doesn't mean you have inside knowledge, but you know that Trump is going to do something. Now, if I had money that I could have played with, I would have sat there and bet on Trump, and I would have won.
But here's the thing. You have to if you're in the White House and you own stock, right? If you own the stock and you don't do anything during this period, then there's no
You're
insider
stupid.
trading because you haven't done anything. You haven't actively used any knowledge to manipulate your money.
Okay. See, insider trading is such a weird thing. I know that Martha Stewart,
Yeah.
she got some information. One time somebody randomly said to her, we're going to do this and that. Well, and they made an example out of
Yeah,
her.
she went to jail for a year in West Virginia, right?
All right. I mean, imagine this scenario. You've got, let's say, $10,000 that you're going, I need to invest this. Oh, well, I got to go to the airport. I got to get on a plane. I got to go to San Francisco for a conference. And while you're sitting there on the plane, the person next to you is going, hey, how you doing? Oh, I'm doing fine, in idle conversation. So what are you doing? Well, I'm going to San Francisco. I'm meeting with some investors. Oh, well, good luck on that. Oh, no, I've already got the deal. We're just negotiating all the warehousing and where all my product that we make, this little widget that we make, is going to be in all the stores. Oh, really? You just got inside knowledge that this guy holds the key to something that is going to be on the shelf of every supermarket in America. And you're going, I got $10,000 I can throw around. Would you throw it at that?
Well, I think Adam Schiff is notorious for this. Here's what I think. I mentioned this to you before I started the show. I think that Schiff is concerned that he is a target of the Trump administration.
He should be.
Yes, he should be, because he lied consistently over and over again during the first term, and also when Trump was trying to prove that he actually won 2020, and Schiff just kept dumping on him. Schiff makes stories up. That's what he does. Do you remember there was a hearing, Bill, about 5 years ago, where Schiff is sitting down and he's reading what he's pretending to be dialogue from a phone conversation, and it's a back and forth between Trump and supposedly a Russian, and come to find out it was all Schiff fiction. It never happened. It was something he made up, but because he was sitting in a hearing environment, he could lie. They're not held liable when you can say anything about anybody if you're a representative and you're in a hearing. You can badmouth anybody. Oh, he's a liar, a cheat, a whatever, a philanderer. You can say whatever you want if you're a representative and you're in a hearing. You can't be held liable.
Sometimes a liar gets sewn up into their own web of lies to where they believe them. He was a scriptwriter, a failed scriptwriter, but maybe, I'm just giving him a defense, it's not a good one, but maybe he's just lost his marbles, and these stories that he makes up in the cobwebs of his mind, he starts to believe them. He believes his own BS.
I think you're a nice guy. I think he's a corrupt,
I think
evil,
he is too.
Evil, plotting SOB. He hates Trump, but he also knows that Trump is his gravy train. Whenever he wants a spotlight thrown in his direction, he can say something challenging and bad, even if it's wrong. Like what he said yesterday about insider trading. Nobody was talking about insider trading except Schiff and that reporter. And by the way, that reporter may have been asked to say those questions in the hallway. He may have been asked and put up to do what he did to stimulate that little soundbite about insider trading. These people do all this kind of nonsense. You think it's off the cuff? Nah, not all the time. These are manipulative, corrupt people. And, I'll give you an example. The day before yesterday, Trump was, I believe the L.A. Dodgers were in town getting accolades for winning the World Series.
Right.
And Trump was talking about, there are some senators here, some that I don't like. And he was talking about Schiff. And then later on he said, I don't know how that big fat head of his stays on his shoulders with that skinny little pencil neck. I mean, he was saying this at a press conference. Now, Trump does this, and it's a way to irritate his enemies. It is not done off the cuff casually. Trump he doesn't do anything, by the way, off the cuff casually. He can pretend because he loves to be, out in front of the crowd, and he knows how to manipulate the crowd, but he doesn't do a lot of faux pas, He says stuff that irritate people to get a reaction. He got a reaction from Schiff yesterday. This was Schiff's way of getting back at Trump. But I think what Trump was signaling Schiff the day before yesterday was, you're still on our radar, buddy, and we're coming after you. We're coming after you, Adam Pencilneck, for all that you did. And he said, I don't like that guy. So I think
for all that you do, this jab is for you.
Yeah, and Bill, the other thing is I don't think that people are saying, well, Trump is he's not going to do anything. We have to remember, this is only 3 months into office. 3 months into his second term. He's done a ton of stuff already. Everything he's doing, I believe, is calculated. He's had 4 years, Trump has, to plan and rethink and think around corners. He knew what the ramifications would be to certain actions from the get-go. He knew, for example, that a DOJ type thing had to be early on in his administration. He couldn't do it 2 years in. He wouldn't have the time to initiate it and then see the benefit of the seed planting from a DOJ. But by doing it when he did it, he was in office, a week when he started DOJ? All of a sudden, they didn't wait around. Elon Musk and his crew, they started going in right away. It was like stormtroopers. Boom, they attacked all of the different problems. So I think that there are people who have been corrupt over the past 8 years, and I think that they're still on Trump's radar. And I think that in the not-too-distant future, hammers will fall. We haven't heard much from Kash Patel. We heard a little bit from him yesterday when they had that big drug bust. I'll play a bit of audio from that in a few minutes. But Patel has been relatively quiet. Dan Bongino, the only grief that Dan Bongino's gotten since he became the deputy director was that he announced that he had to increase his security because I guess he's getting death threats.
A lot of Trump. Well, I think all the Trump administration's been getting those.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, the left is saying, how does he deserve more security? He's the deputy director of the Federal Bureau of Investigation. One of the damn left reporters on, I think, MSNBC was saying, well, I mean, he was a Secret Service agent and a former police officer. He should be able to take care of himself. Why doesn't he pack a gun? First of all, I think he probably packs a gun. I wouldn't advertise it if I were him, but I think he probably has one. And secondly, I think that you have to be incredibly careful in that position because you're a target everywhere you go. And his family has to be protected, too. So I don't begrudge anybody in that position for having security. And I think when you hear the left starting to make a big deal of it, we got problems in this country. Joe Biden, Hunter Biden had security. You didn't hear anything from the media. This was a dope smoking, crack dealing. He was selling influence. Not a big deal for the left. He can have all the Secret Service agents. Never an issue. Never an issue. You get a deputy director in the Trump administration of the FBI, and all of a sudden they want to make something of it. Nonsense. Anyway, Bill, we were talking about yesterday. An interesting thing happened. Pam Bondi and Kash Patel. Yeah, they confirmed they had a big seizure of drugs in, I believe, Florida, and
$500 million.
$500 million. Can you believe that? That's a lot. That I don't care if you're the biggest cartel in the world. That has got to hurt. Here's how it went.
Thank you all for being here today. Today's operation is an example of the unprecedented collaboration between the military and the Department of Justice components, working closely with the U.S. Coast Guard. And look at all these great men and women in the Coast Guard. Thank you so much for your dedication. This is a textbook example of the Justice Department supporting the fight against violent crime. These drugs are worth over $500 million. Almost 45,000 pounds of cocaine, pure cocaine, uncut, and 3,800 pounds of marijuana. Congratulations again to the Coast Guard. You have done incredible work, Admiral, and your team, Captain, in securing these drugs. This team, with all the agencies I just mentioned, used drones, aircraft, and ships to interdict the traffickers off the coast of Peru, Ecuador, and the Galapagos Islands. What they did saved countless American lives. Countless lives. This cocaine would have been distributed throughout our country and perhaps throughout our world. 11 separate prosecutions will take place as a result of this, and they will be prosecuted in the Middle District of Florida. These defendants will be held accountable for bringing this poison into our country. I always say if we can save one life, we have done amazing work. And today we have saved thousands and thousands of lives as a result of this incredible cooperation. We believe two cartels, CJ&G and Sinaloa, were heavily tied to these shipments. This is a major blow to their financial operations and their efforts to distribute drugs throughout our country. It's an example of a prosecutor-led, intelligence-driven approach to stopping these criminal enterprises in their tracks. DOJ and all of the agencies involved will continue to dismantle this transnational criminal organization, lock these criminals up, and keep our country safe. The drugs that you have seen today will no longer destroy lives. They will help us lock up the criminals. Thank you all, and it is my honor to introduce the Director of the Federal Bureau of Investigation, Kash Patel.
Thank you all for being here. General Bondi, we're here today because of your dedicated leadership to safeguard American lives, because you had the courage to follow President Trump's courage to put our children first and to make sure that the narco traffickers, and make no mistake, this administration has labeled them foreign terrorist organizations because that's what they are. There is no lethal force on planet Earth that is responsible for an overdose death of an American citizen every 7 minutes. More so than these federal terrorist organizations, foreign terrorist organizations. We are humbled to be a part of this Department of Justice, and we are going to continue to safeguard our streets. This is what it looks like when the United States whole of government approach brings every resource to bear, from the Department of Defense and the United States Coast Guard, from HSI, from FBI, from DEA, and so many others. They are going to get all the drugs off the streets, off the markets, and as Attorney General Bondi said, we are going to lock them up. They are no longer going to be free to roam. We are going to dismantle the next man up theory that has been breeding in these Mexican cartels for generations. No more. We are here today because of your brave work. The men and women of the FBI that I lead, I'm humbled and honored to be here in South Florida, where I spent so much of my career before I moved to Washington, D.C. And looking around, I'm awe-inspired by the fact that when you take the rules and regulations that blockaded these brave men and women of law enforcement, military, and you unshackle them, then you should look at this seizure and you should see how much it multiplies and see how many children and how many young adults and how many adults' lives that we have just saved. They did it. We're fortunate to be their leaders. We're humbled to be here. And you will see this happen across the country because this is not a one-off for General Bondi. She has made this a mission priority, and the FBI will follow in every corner of this country and every square centimeter of this planet to eradicate the narco traffickers and the foreign terrorist organization that are killing American citizens. They will be held accountable. We will take preventive measures, and we will scour the ends of the earth to find every single one of them. Thank you so much for being here today.
You know, I was thinking, people have said, boy, I've seen Pam Bondi on interviews all over the place, you know, and I was thinking, you know, I think Trump, another intentional thing on his part is he picked people who could present themselves well in the media. Because, you know, over the last 4 years, we had a very dull Merrick Garland as the Attorney General who come out and he would say his statement and he'd leave. And there was no off-the-cuff banter, no enthusiasm. He was usually, it was almost a morbid kind of approach to his statements. And then you get people like Jack Smith, who looked like he came out of the Addams Family casting call. You know, I mean, these were the type of people you were dealing with for the past 4 years. Trump, on the other hand, for example, his, you know, Caroline Leavitt, I was watching one of her news conferences, and they're turning it into a media event in that she just doesn't stand up there and talk to the reporters. She has a TV screen now, big TV screen right to her side, and when she's talking about different things, they're changing the video on the screen to match what she's saying, like a newscast. And I was thinking, this is a whole new approach to doing a press conference for the president. There's her and visuals. You know, we have this, Pam Bondi and Kash Patel. They're going on. I was saying, why is she talking so much? It's because Trump is trying to literally erase the 4 years of terrible leadership in those departments by putting people who will make it look like these departments are great again. You know, he's actually helping, Bill, the FBI. He's helping the Justice Department because for years people were saying, "Oh, the corrupt Justice Department. Oh, the corrupt FBI." Now you got a guy like Patel in there who's, you know, he's scrubbing it. He's getting rid of the dead wood and the bad operators in those operations. And then he's promoting all the good people that are in there, you know, and the good works that they're doing.
If they didn't do it this way, you would never get the true story. You would get, you know, Kash Patel today. Yes, we caught all these drug cartel people, and then that would be the clip, and then they would sit there and do their own video and their own narrative and their own headlines to sit there and control the news, which is what they do. So they kind of make it foolproof, goof-proof, and you know, a lot of people aren't going to quote unquote the mainstream or legacy news anymore. They're actually getting it from the source and they're seeing it right there. That's why they're doing the teleprompters. That's why, you know, they're doing the stories. I'm sure she has a teleprompter. She knows what she's going to talk about. You know, talk about this, and you know, you get a heading, and you know, so it's.
No, you're absolutely correct. 100% right.
They've reversed the role.
Yes,
of just,
they've changed the importance of the media,
right.
and our this administration knows that, and they're using all of the tools that they have to be able to be acceptable in social media, to be very 21st century, you know, and you know that's why you talked about ratings with MSNBC. Those were only a couple of days worth of numbers. Their overall ratings for the quarter are in the tank, and so is CNN, and they don't know what to do, Bill.
Well, they got a spike because nobody knew what to do and they fear monger. And so with the tariffs, because nobody really understands tariffs, what they are, they could sit there and they go, we can manipulate this. They don't even know what tariffs are. A lot of people don't. I mean, I saw all the false stories out there going, we've gone down this road of tariffs before. I mean, look what happened with the Great Depression. Well, the tariffs, came quite a bit after it. The damage had already been done. There were so many things that led up to it with globalization that it was inevitable for things to crash and fall. Stocks go up and down, and that's regardless of tariffs. Tariffs are actually a good thing, and they helped back then turn the corner. So, but you talk about Kash Patel and the fake news. Last night, before I, called it a night, I sat there and said, breaking news, Kash Patel out. He has been quietly let go. Kash Patel is done. And if you go to CNN, then they're going, it might be fake news. Okay, it is, but isn't. Kash Patel was put in charge of the FBI.
Right.
That was what he was cleared on. Now, he also was put in charge secondarily, and it's rare for somebody to hold two hats, of the ATF. That was until they figured out what they're going to do. Well, they did figure it out. They put in, what's the guy's name? Daniel Driscoll, I think, the Army Secretary, in charge.
So they the headline was, it was a lie. Really, it was trying to sucker you in to read the article.
Well, no, the article didn't say that he had anything to do with the FBI. It was like that was his job, and Trump quietly doesn't want to tell anyone that it was a failure, but we're telling you it's a failure. And your sycophant friends today are going to be going, look at the admitted. Who would have not guessed this? Who would have not guessed you've been lying?
Hey, by the way, friends, again, a reminder, 3 months. I mean, Kash Patel hasn't even hung his pictures in his office yet, all right? Yet the mainstream media is trying to make it sound like he had time to do something ineffectively and be replaced. Do you know? I mean, for gosh sakes, but they are hoping against hope that something that they say sticks. And so far, they've had very little luck. It goes back to what we were talking about at the start of the show about tariffs. They were trying to make it sound like, oh, what a moron Trump is. He's tanked our economy. We're going down the tubes. Conversely, look what happened. It was the greatest day in stock history yesterday. A lot of people made a lot of money, and also internationally, he has calmed the nerves of the economies around the world. And 70-plus countries are coming to the U.S. to renegotiate their tariffs with the United States. That's a pretty good amount of people. The only troublemaker, of course, is communist China. And Trump is not bad-mouthing him, Bill. He's making it sound like they're trying to make a decision.
Yeah, but, China's trying to figure out, because when Trump said 50%, they said, well, we're going to go 50 on top of that.
Yeah.
Well, and Trump said, okay, I'm going to go more. And with what happened yesterday, Trump went more. They're at 125%.
Right.
All right. So you understand what's going on here. That's the tariff on Chinese stuff. And then, but within a day, with the first day of Trump doing the tariffs, all of a sudden, he started getting phone calls. They were going off the hook. 75 nations came forward and said, we want a deal.
Yeah.
We want a deal. We will dock a deal. And so what he did yesterday said, okay, you've got a 10% tariff, but a 90-day freeze on anything more. We can negotiate this down to zero. We got 90 days to talk now. So nothing's going to happen to you.
Yeah, Trump said the only problem we have is that we may not have enough people to do the negotiations, because they have to be, he said, they have to be done one-on-one. They really do.
And so it's going to take a little bit of time. There could be some extensions of the deal. But in other words, nothing's going to falter. And that was a signal that things are better. And obviously, the stock market can give a flying flip about China.
By the way, this morning it was reported that the European Union has paused their counter tariffs against us because they're going to renegotiate too. Trump, no matter what you may say about Trump, at the end of the day, the United States is going to be the better for everything that he's done. with these tariffs.
All right. Now, the left has been trained that he's bad, Trump bad, no good, bad man, dirty man, corrupt and terrible.
Yeah.
But take all that away. Just step back for a minute. He's had affairs, he's done this, and he's a ladies' man, and to make the money he's got to be corrupt. Take all that away. You have thrown relentless crap after this guy, time after time after time, basically since he decided to run for president.
Right.
But all right, everything has, that's going to sink a ship. Any normal person would not survive that or weather that.
Right.
He's weathered every one and come out on top.
Bill,
And
it's funny you should say that. Even something as simple as him showing up at a corrupt judge's court on a cold winter's day to be humiliated in public, as he was, would, in many cases, would cripple, if not crush, a person. I mean, the mere fact that a proud, successful man would show up in this corrupt, lawfare judge's courtroom and have him humiliate him in public, would have said, "Out of hell with this. I'm out of government. This is not worth the time or effort. I'm a multimillionaire. I don't need this nonsense." But the guy stayed in the game. The guy didn't, like you said, he didn't fold. He didn't bend. He stood solid, and it didn't crush him. It only made him stronger.
I remember when he bought, what was it, Eastern Airlines, and he ran that for a while. But an airline industry, I've known a lot of people in the industry. I remember the old, what was it, Braniff?
Yeah.
And then there was, I actually knew the guy that started out with a typewriter on a desk. I forget the name of the airline. They had the white and red planes, and basically everything was business class. The one ticket bought,
It wasn't People's Express, was it?
That might have been People's, yeah.
Well, you could buy your tickets on the plane, literally.
Yeah. Because if that's the guy was actually, he had a production company, and I did a lot of voiceovers for him. He was there in the Pittsburgh area when I was there. And, I would always get the people story. I'm like, geez, I don't want to hear this story again. But either way, he did that, and he went from rags to riches to rags because that's the way that industry goes. But,
I got to tell you a little side story, Bill. My wife and I, maybe it was just me. May have been just me. My wife was probably too smart. I flew on People's Express from Pittsburgh to Newark. And I thought it was great. I was a young man, and I thought, well, it's going to be cheap. I can remember sitting in the jet. They just before they closed the door, the pilot entered, and the pilot looked like he just got out of junior high school. I mean, I think he still had Clearasil on his face, and I thought this could have been a big mistake on my part.
Yeah.
As it was a safe flight, thank God. He apparently had enough training to get us there, but it made me think twice. I think that may have been the last time.
Back to the story of Trump, though. I mean, he went down. I remember he was selling off stuff. He was broke, and that was before Melania. And I remember he told a story here just recently. He goes, he went out on a date, and, the lady thought he had a lot of money and everything. And at the time, he was millions in the hole. And she was sitting there thinking, oh, man, she's got a good one on the hook. And he sat there and said, see that bum across the street? He goes, yeah. And he goes, he's worth more than me. What, he's a millionaire? No. Even if he was worth exactly zero, he's worth at least $1 million more than me right now. That's how deep in debt I am. But
the other thing was, they talk
the lowest point, he got out of it.
They talk about Melania, right? Melania, when he married her, was a millionaire on her own. She didn't need his money. She wasn't marrying him for his money. She was an incredibly successful model. During his first term, they never put her on any covers of any magazines because Trump bad man, and they didn't want to give Trump any publicity. But when she was a model, she was on the front page of Bazaar, Harper's Bazaar, of Vogue, all the time. No big deal. But she was that level of a model. And by the way, she's still, in my opinion, the best-looking first lady in the history of our country. She's really, and she carries herself well, too. She's not out there trying to be center stage, be something that she's not. Hey, Bill, before we get lost in the weeds talking about, like, People's Express like I did, but it was a great story. You see where the House passed a very important bill last night. It was the Darrell Issa No Rogue Rulings Act. And what it does, it limits district judges from stepping out of their districts, with their decisions, like Boasberg did, stopping all of the what do you call it, terrorists being sent to El Salvador, like he had control over that. So the House has passed it. Only one Republican, a guy named, I think his name was it Murphy? Was it, I'll tell you who it is, because I have it here on my little machine here. One guy, I have it, I swear I had it here somewhere, yet I can't, when I need it, I can't find it. Oh, well, but there was one Republican who didn't vote with the other Republicans. He's from Ohio. And I want to say it is.
Well, he's from Ohoho. That would tell you a whole lot right there.
Well, the guy. I know he's been in office for 14 terms, and I think that makes them very cocky. Mike Turner of Ohio was the sole GOP no vote. He sided with the Democrats. Mike Turner. Remember that if you're in Ohio, okay? This guy here, he thought so little of this administration. He's supposed to be a Republican, that during a critical vote, he didn't vote with the other Republicans. So maybe, and now they're talking to everybody's surprise, in quotes, that they may want to primary Mike Turner. 14 terms, that's 28 years in office. You become very complacent after being in office for 28 years.
That tell you how old he is? Because 28 terms, did you say? 14 terms,
14
right?
terms. 14 terms,
All right,
28
years. And, so he's got to be in his late 50s, early 60s.
Yeah, he is.
It could be a little older. I don't know.
Well, he's gotten to a point where he thinks he can't lose. Nothing you can do to me can hurt me. And he probably, to a certain extent, even if he got primaried and lost, he's got all the benefits he need. He probably made a ton of money.
You get it after 2 terms. And let me tell you something here, friends. Voters are lazy, and Democrats know that, too. So they can rig a vote very easily because people get used to names. They don't know who's on the ticket. Oh, I know this name. There you go. And that's a vote.
Yeah.
Now, you wouldn't know the name, and you'd have to do your research if you only got 2 terms. And that was it.
The funny thing about it is there was a time in our country that your appearance didn't really make a lot of difference as to whether you were going to get voted into office or not. But, when television came along, all of a sudden you started to have telegenic candidates. John Kennedy with that nice, perfect hair, great smile. He could have been the news anchor at 11 o'clock. Now, Dwight Eisenhower, not so much. But then again, when he was in office, TV was just a little baby. It wasn't as influential as it was.
Actually, he might look good in today's media because back when it first came out, media and television, it was very, very one-dimensional, and you didn't have any depth to the picture or anything. So it took a certain look that would sit there and look good on camera and not look as good in person. Or vice versa. You might have a decent look in person, very chiseled look, but on camera, it just looked. Now, there's more resolution, more depth in that. So people,
I think there is. I still think you put a Hollywood star up against a character actor, and it ain't going to work.
Well, you're saying character actor that can be interpreted. I'm saying somebody with. Good definition on their face.
Well, let's talk about Grover Cleveland versus John Kennedy. I mean, and those were guys who were at the most 50 years apart, but there was a time, even people say that Abraham Lincoln would never have got voted into office had there been a media like there is today. Abraham Lincoln was this lanky, tall, gaunt-looking scarecrow of a guy with sunken, hollow eyes, and he
because
didn't.
There was no visual perception of him.
No.
It was a mental perception. I'm just saying there are two types of perceptions that are going on: that of the 50s and that of now 2025, and there is a difference. To where
I think that we can agree to disagree. I think that Dwight Eisenhower, well, he had no. I think even something as simple as lack of hair. Of hair. He didn't have that photogenic, telegenic look. You look at Bill Clinton. He had that telegenic look. If Bill Clinton had a receding hairline or no hair, he wouldn't have made it into office. I don't care how great a smile he had. I'm telling you, people are sold on a package. And Bill Clinton, right or wrong, had a package. Barack Obama had the package. Great smile, trim. You even heard Biden say, well, good-looking guy, during one of, I mean, that means something. Today, Trump, whether you like him or not, he had the hair, he had the money, he had the story, before he became president. Multi-billionaire playboy guy runs for president. He had the whole package. And by the way, when Trump was younger, he was movie star handsome. So,
yeah,
I don't know.
I always thought it was Michelle that had the package, but that's a whole different thing.
I'm not even going to. I'm just letting that one fall by the wayside.
I was just going to say, there's a lot of stories about Michelle.
I'm sure there are. Yes, I know.
No.
Yes,
I was getting to a point.
No. Yeah, I can see the smile.
No.
Yeah.
I was getting to
a point
that we talked about.
You were talking about American Express, yes.
No. Let me make my point.
You were talking about FedEx. Go ahead.
No. My point was there's a lot of news about Obama and Michelle and their supposed divorce or not divorce. They're on the outs and not that. And I kind of sit there and go, if you're on the outs, you outwardly just say, yeah, we've got a problem. We're working on it. We're either working on our relationship or we're working on our separation. But no, this is this little coy thing that they're doing and they're playing. I'm going, why are they doing this unless they're buying media time to keep their names out there and try to maintain some kind of relevance? Because maybe there's some kind of jousting for media attention to keep their names current and public for some kind of future run or plan.
And that's why you mentioned her package. Okay.
Well, that was just a joke.
I know.
You mentioned.
Hey, listen,
Obama was the package.
I gotta play this for you. Joni Ernst was talking. She was on Fox Business with Maria Bartiromo, and she made a comment which I thought was very ironic. Listen.
It even goes further than that, Maria. Things as outrageous as trying to get workers back into the office. We actually had workers that showed up at the office to protest having to come back to work at the office. So we're finding all kinds of things with the Doge work, the squeal work that I have done for 10 years. And thank heavens we have President Trump and Doge, the Office of Government Efficiency, that's finally cracking down on these types of activities. Yeah.
I mean, think about it. There were workers.
Can't make that up.
Yeah, there were workers who came to her office to protest having to work in the office. Yeah. You wonder what are these people being paid to do that, Bill? To protest these things? You got to wonder, because some of it just doesn't make any sense at all. Anyway, there were some executive orders signed yesterday in the Oval Office, and a couple of them made me go, First of all, do you remember there was a guy during, I believe, Trump's, it might have been during Biden's administration, there was a guy who came out as anonymous, meaning he had a lot of insider information on what was going on behind the scenes in the Trump administration. Mm-hmm. Come to find out, Trump didn't even know who this guy was. He said there are a lot of people in the White House. A lot of people walk around the White House, interns and stuff. I don't know who they are. Have no idea.
Mm. Apparently, you don't know Anonymous like I know Anonymous.
I'm sure.
Yeah.
Sounds like there's a song going to break out. Anyway.
Really, it does.
Yeah. Here's Trump talking about Miles Taylor.
Thank you, sir. The next presidential memorandum we have for you relates to Miles Taylor. You may recall that Miles Taylor served in the Department of Homeland Security during your previous administration. In his capacity with the Department of Homeland Security, he leaked classified information. He wrote a book under the pseudonym Anonymous, making outrageous claims both about your administration and about others in it. What this presidential memorandum is going to do, one, it's going to strip any active clearance that he has in light of his past activities involving classified information. It's also going to order the Department of Justice to investigate his activities to see what else might come up in that context, given his egregious behavior during your previous administration.
And I had no idea who this guy was. I had no idea. I saw him on CNN, or one of them, I guess CNN, a lot. He'd be on all the time saying that the president is the president. I had no idea. It's like, in this office you have a lot of young people, and they're here. I'll see him for 2 minutes, and I assume he was in the office, but I barely remember him.
This is the kind of stuff he has to deal with. Mm-hmm. And there are holdovers, Bill. There are some people who stick around in the White House through administrations, staff members and stuff like that. So, and some of these people are not Trump supporters, and they're quite vocal about it. And apparently this guy figured he could make a few bucks by writing a book about being in a position in the White House, but he was not in a position to have any insider information. He was just like an aide. And so
Smoke and mirrors, though, he can get away with it. Yeah, I have the inside knowledge because I was inside the White House, so why wouldn't I have the knowledge? And yeah, he's making a buck.
What's interesting, though, Bill, how quickly the mainstream media gave him a platform. All he had to do was say, I hate Trump, and I'm going to tell you about it because I was in the White House. He could have been parking cars at the White House, and but they would have given him a platform.
Well, he could probably go to AI right now. I hate Trump. Why do I hate Trump? And it will sit there and give you a list of reasons. And you can sit there and go on the 6 o'clock news. They'd love to have you on because it's just a new angle on the same hate. And that's all they want. It's hate, 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 hate. Do you have some hate to throw into this bonfire of hate? Come on.
There's another guy named Christopher Krebs who Trump has ordered. He signed an executive order about, too. He was the former director of the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency. Mm-hmm. So Trump, he wants to have this guy looked into because, and I thought for a second, Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency. I'm thinking this sounds to me like the kind of guy that if he was corrupt could really do a lot of damage. Leak information, put back doors in computer systems, put traps in computer systems. I'm just saying. And I got a feeling this is what Trump is concerned with. So here's what Trump said about Christopher Krebs yesterday.
Christopher Krebs, the former head of CISA. This is a man who weaponized his position against free speech in the election context, in the context of COVID-19, and further instructs your Department of Justice, other aspects of your government, to investigate some of the malign acts that he participated in while he was still head of CISA.
This is another one. I don't know that I met him. I'm sure I met him, but I didn't know him. And he came out right after the election, which was a rigged election, a badly rigged election. We did phenomenally in that election. Look what happened to our country because of it. Open borders, millions of people coming into our country. Russia and Ukraine, that would have never happened. October 7th would have never happened. Afghanistan, the way that they withdrew with 13 dead, but so many killed, actually. I mean, so many killed outside of the 13 soldiers, hundreds of people killed. And maybe, I don't know, never mentioned, but I mentioned it, 42 or 43 people so badly injured, the legs, the arms blown off, the face. And this is all because of a incompetent group of people that preceded us, and that would have never happened. And this guy Krebs was saying, oh, the election was great, it was great. Well, it's been proven that it was not only not great. When you look at all these lawyers and law firms that are signing, giving us hundreds of millions of dollars, it was proven by so many different ways and so many different forms, from the legislatures not approving to the that worked, from all of the different scamming operations. It was a very corrupt election. They used COVID to cheat. And we're going to find out about this guy, too, because this guy's a wise guy. He said, we've been proved this is the most secure election in the history of our country. Now, this was a disaster. And frankly, we should go to paper ballots, same-day voting, voter ID, and one other thing, you should get a little certificate that says you're a citizen of our country. You get a citizen piece of paper that says you're a citizen before you can vote. But you want voter ID and you want paper ballots, and you really want same-day voting. If you don't have same-day voting, they decide to change the air conditioner. Oh, we're fixing the air conditioner. Let's move all these boxes. We'll bring them back in a few days, and then they don't bring back those boxes. We got to have safe elections. We have to have borders. Ideally, we have to have a free press, which we don't have. We don't have a free press. We have a very dishonest press. This is an honor. We're going to find out whether or not he was right. This was a disgraceful election, and this guy sat back saying, well, I'm a member, or like he's a Republican or something, and almost right from the beginning, and he's tried to make the case that this election was a safe election. I think he said, this is the safest election we've ever had. And yet, every day you read in the papers about more and more fraud that's discovered. He's the fraud. He's a disgrace. So we'll find out whether or not it was a safe election. And if it wasn't, he's got a big price to pay. And he's a bad guy. Here's another one. I have no idea who he is. Krebs. I have no idea who he is. I'm sure he was in the room at some point, just like you're all in the room, but I have no idea who he was, so thank you very much. Those last two are very important, I think, for the country.
You know, it's funny. Well, he was signing his name with that felt pen. It sounded like a little dog that was panting out of breath there. But anyway, that was President Trump yesterday with he signed a bunch of executive orders.
Have you heard of Operation Let Her Speak?
No.
You haven't.
No, I have
You didn't
not.
You didn't hear the Kennedy comment about AOC. Apparently, he said, he was asked about AOC, and he said, she's her own worst enemy. She's the reason that there's directions on a shampoo bottle, and we have a policy in the Senate. It's called Operation Let Her Speak. She'll hang herself. Yeah.
John Kennedy he's a character. He presents himself, by the way, Senator Kennedy from Louisiana, as this kind of down-home kind of country store, feet up on the pickle barrel kind of guy, talking with a piece of straw in his mouth. I believe he's an Oxford University graduate, Rhodes Scholar or something like that.
Rhodes Scholar, yeah.
Yeah, this guy is incredibly schooled, but he doesn't present himself that way.
Yeah, but those guys that got their feet propped up, chewing on a straw, that talk like that,
Yeah.
They have a funny thing, but they have a nice jarb, and you're going, where'd they get that from?
Yeah.
Beware. And
they're usually the smartest guys in the room.
yeah, because he knows something that you don't, and might be a good idea just to kick back and kind of listen.
Yes, I agree. And by the way, if you're going to kick back and kind of listen, you might want to do that with a cup of coffee. Yeah. And I wouldn't just suggest any old cup of coffee. I would suggest Jim and Bill's Right Side Coffee. You're saying, well, what's so special about Jim and Bill's Right Side Coffee? I'll tell you what's special about it. First of all, it's our coffee. There isn't another brand out there with Jim and Bill in front of it. Secondly, it's made from the finest coffee beans you can get on the market today. And the flavor is unsurpassed. It is absolutely a marvelous cup of coffee. Great way to start your day. If you have a liberal neighbor, you want to get them to calm down because, they're the ones historically, especially nowadays, they want to fight. The left, the party of the pacifist, of make love, not war, the peaceniks, all those people, the leftists, right? They want to break into your house and punch your face. But I'm just saying, give them a cup of Jim and Bill's Right Side coffee. Calms them right down. Makes them think clearly for a second, if only for a second. You might want to buy them a whole bag and tell them to take it for a week. And
I give them a whole steaming hot pot. I throw it right at them. But anyway.
You don't want to be like them. But Jim and Bill's Right Side coffee, you're saying, well, I'd buy it, Jim, if you tell me where I can get it. I'm not going to tell you where you can get it. Bill's going to tell you. No, you are.
Oh, I am.
Yes, you tell
him. If it were me, I would just go to itsanotherday.com, and up at the top left, it says Right Side Shop. That takes you right to it. Or if you're, a little more into doing things independent,
Yes.
then you would type in a search for Right Side Shop, or just go www.rightsideshop.com. Oh, you'll find it.
Oh, my goodness. It's just like that. It's like magic, isn't it? Really, it's incredible stuff.
It really is magic. So, get that magic elixir called Right Side Coffee, or make America percolate again, and get your Terminator cup, and get your Right Side shirt, and your, Right Side hat. And man, you will be,
You'll have the whole
rightly
thing.
so fixed.
You will be all set for.
You'll be the whole package.
The next holiday you have to go to. It'll be perfect for you and your family. Jim and Bill's rightsideshop.com. It's a great coffee. You'll be very happy you made the move to our brand of coffee from whatever brand you're having. You may have a good brand of coffee right now, but you don't have Jim and Bill's Right Side coffee. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
All right.
Got to get it.
We also have spared no expense. We've gone to no expense to bring in Juan.
That would be, that'd be better.
Juan Jose and the Border Crossing.
Wake up on the right side with Right Side Coffee.
So wake up on the right side with Right Side Coffee. Do it today. You'll be glad you did. You see where the Pope had a visit yesterday? It was kind of like a surprise visit from King Charles and Camilla.
Really?
Yes. And I'm thinking to myself, what the heck? It was like an unannounced, a secret rendezvous with the Pope to discuss goodness knows whatever. And I don't know. You hear a lot of people talking about globalists and stuff like that. And when you do, sometimes you hear their names floated around, meaning both the Pope and King Charles. So maybe there's some truth to it. Maybe where there's smoke, there's fire. All I know is that I happen to, being a practicing Catholic, I happen to like Pope Benedict myself. I thought he was a pretty good pope. And all of a sudden, one day, somebody somewhere said, he's got to go. And before you know it, in my lifetime, for the first time ever, they just decided to pull the pin on his papacy, and he was asked to leave. So, and he did. They said, oh, he'll spend his retirement in a nice place. He was actually held under guard in some castle on a mountain somewhere, and he couldn't say a lot of things in public. He was just squirreled away. He was, might you say, imprisoned in a very comfortable way.
Snubbed out of society.
Yes, and all of a sudden you had this guy from Argentina who was a socialist first and a priest second, as far as I'm concerned. And all of a sudden, he's the Pope, Pope Francis, and everybody bows down, and and he does a lot of damage to a faith of over 2,000 years. So, I wish him no ill. I hope he continues to recover from his illness, but I also think there's something more to him than we're being told, and we may never know. I don't know. And what else is going on during the Panama trip? You heard about that, Peter. Pete Hegseth went down there. He talked about how they're going to make it so you'll be able to traverse, if you're in the military, free and first, meaning they will get preferential treatment. The U.S. military will get preferential treatment, which says to me that I guess for the longest time, they had to wait in line. They had to pull up and wait in line. They had to pay to go through with their destroyers and whatever. We're the country that built the darn thing.
Right.
And the Panamanians were kind of giving us the old heave-ho. And we had to defer to China because Panama was deferring to China. They were running things down there, you know? So,
well, we should have never, that was a Carter mistake. We should have never given the Panama Canal to, the Panamanians for $1. We should have never sold it. We should have never given it up. If anything, we should have sat there and made the channels bigger and modernized it. But, we'll give it to them.
But thank God, Bill, we had a contract. At least it may have been for $1, but there were stipulations to that $1. It wasn't just hand me $1, I'll put it in my wallet and walk away. And because there was an agreement, we could point to it and say you violated the agreement. It wasn't totally stupid. It was stupid, but it wasn't totally stupid, Also, Bill, Mike Huckabee was on one of the talk shows recently talking about our situation with Iran. Iran's in a difficult. Trump is being very nice. He's saying good things about the Iranian people. He says there are smart people, there are good people. They have to live under a terrible regime, and I guess what Trump is talking about doing is he's talking about squeezing them financially and economically. And if that happens, the people of Iran may have had enough and remove them. I don't know. It's awfully hard to make a move under a tyrannical government like they have, or they would have done it years ago. I remember, I think it was under Bush 1, where they started to make waves like they were going to remove that government, and Bush had the opportunity to help them, and he just ignored the opportunity, and leaders of that conflict were either imprisoned or killed, and nothing became of it. So
you got to wonder why sometimes, people allow those conflicts to continue. It's like they have their chosen bad guys they support.
Well, I don't know. I'll never understand how Biden and Obama could send pallets, big wooden pallets of cash stocked in big cargo planes and dump the cash on the runways. I'm talking billions of dollars worth of money. For what? Well, could you imagine FDR sending, bundles of cash to Hitler, or bundles of cash to Mussolini?
But what do they do with that money?
Well, they come after us. They enhance their nuclear research. Although, Bill, I could have sworn like 5 years ago they were saying, they're only 2 weeks away from.
They've been saying that forever. So I believe this is all a news roost to us, where it's a lie. They have nuclear capabilities. I think they have weapons of mass destruction. I know we fund their military. We give them stuff. But there's a reason for that, because the military-industrial complex, we need weapons to fight them. And when weapons are blown up and broke, we need new weapons.
But, Bill, I think maybe they may not have nuclear weapons. They're using the threat of developing them to get more money from us. It's like,
well,
we're this
it could
close.
be.
Anyway, I just think it's interesting. But Mike Huckabee was talking about Iran. He had this. By the way, Mike Huckabee's he's been presented as the next Israeli ambassador to Israel from the U.S. He has to be confirmed, so that hasn't happened yet. But here's what Mike Huckabee said.
They're concerned. They know that Donald Trump means business. His first term, they experienced maximum pressure. He doggone near bankrupted them. They didn't have any money to finance the terrorists of Hamas, Hezbollah, and the Houthis. Joe Biden comes in, takes his foot off the brake, and the next thing you know, the Iranians have money, and what do they do with it? Well, they develop their nuclear program, and they fund terrorism, and a lot of people are massacred, innocent civilians. Donald Trump comes back into office, puts the pressure back on. I think they're feeling it, but they better take him seriously because he's not kidding around, and there's no way Iran is ever going to have a nuclear weapon. He's made that clear, just as he's made clear Hamas has no future in Gaza.
And obviously the president's not at the point of, they're not starving him out yet, are they, as far as financially? They're waiting to use that if they need to?
Well, it's already beginning to happen, but it takes time to get all the sanctions in place. When this happened before, it didn't take long before countries decided, do they want to do business with Iran or they want to do business with the U.S.? It's an easy answer. They'd rather do business with us. We're a much better, much bigger, much more sustainable market. Nobody will pick Iran over the United States when it comes to doing business. So when the president dealt with them before, he didn't bomb them, he bankrupted them. And that's a more effective strategy. And it also puts them in a situation where, as their country is just virtually on the brink of economic disaster, it gives their people an opportunity to think about maybe it's time to overthrow these horrible people that have destroyed our culture, our way of life, and our legacy for 45 years.
Mike Huckabee talking about Iran, and I think that's where Trump is going next. He's going to just shut off the economy. And people may say, well, how do you do that? Well, you say to all the countries that trade with Iran, you can either trade with Iran or you can trade with the United States. What market do you want? But you can't have both. And most countries will say, well, we want your much larger market, so we will stay away from Iran. And that's how you squeeze them. And
time will only tell. And I don't know. I've never trusted them. And, you think they don't have nuclear capabilities. I got to think after all these years, they've got, even if it's limited or a small stock, you only need one nuke or two, and that's it. And they do have reactors there. They do have nuclear power there, right?
Well, do we really know? I mean, for example, when I was a young man, they built these, what they looked like reactors near where I lived, but they weren't. They were just heating ducts for power plants. They looked like the nuclear reactors, but they weren't.
The stacks.
Yeah, so you can actually make something that looks like a nuclear-powered power plant, but it's really not. Other things, Bill, I see where China is reportedly threatening to ban the import of U.S. films in what appears to be a desperate attempt to slap back at Trump's tariffs. But I was thinking, they throw this out there. What people don't realize is China owns about maybe 60% now of the major movie studios in Hollywood.
Right.
So if they ban their market to those studios, they're only hurting themselves. So I don't know whether that's going to happen. Plus, how does that really affect us? The movies, they're making movies, Bill, nowadays that literally are designed, the scripts are designed so that in post-production, you can shoot a China ending and the rest of the world ending. Mm. You can change the nationality of the lead character. If the villain in a movie is Chinese and you want to present it in the Chinese market, you literally in post-production can change that villain into North Korean or something like that. They have that capability nowadays.
And as far as it goes, you can sit there and say, well, all these movie companies they've got, but the day of the big company is over. I mean, we could start our own movie studio, Jim and Bill, and most everything that can be done. We don't even need. It's nice to have the big budget, but you can get the crew out there. You can get everything you need to do everything, and do it, from the basement of your house. And as far as scenes, locations, you got green screen shot.
You
the
have
day of those two.
You have special effects now you can buy in software that if you want to have a building blow up with a big fireball, you can do it in post. You can blow up the building in post. You're not really blowing up the building, but it sure looks like it on film. So you're absolutely correct. There's a lot of young independent filmmakers who are making that move. There's never been a more exciting time to be a film director or producer than right now. Only problem is they are putting out lousy scripts, and they haven't got a lot of direction. The great writers of the 30s and 40s and 50s,
they're gone.
Yeah, they're not around. Everything is a superhero, and I think I saw where the big movie this past weekend was the Minecraft movie. It's like, oh, all right, is that another superhero type thing? And I guess they got Thunderbolts coming out very soon. That'll be another big movie. They're all takeoffs on comic books. And I don't I don't know about you, but if I never, even as a kid, I could care less about comic books, but apparently that's where the money is.
Yeah, and from the review I got from a 13-year-old was, as far as the movie you just mentioned,
Minecraft.
Minecraft. Yeah. It's fire, like it's on fire. It's good.
Is it?
But there's the other one. The little furry guy? I forget what the little speedy racer thing.
Yes.
I actually had to go watch that movie with the 13-year-old. And I said, well, what's the better one? Oh, it was the one that I had to go watch. And I was going, and it was all right. It had some. These movies do have star power in them.
Do you want to know the best thing I've seen in a long time? Was 1923. It's on Paramount Plus. It's a miniseries. If you watch the whole thing, it's like reading a good book. It's about the Dutton family, the same family. It's the predecessor to the Yellowstone Duttons of the fame, that series fame. But talk about richness in writing, and even the photography was beautifully done. I was thinking if somebody took all that footage and was a good editor, they could have cut that into a real good 2-hour movie. But that's where they're going with good scripts nowadays. They're going to streaming sites. You want to have action heroes, and maybe they figured out, Bill, that the only way they can get the public to go to a theater nowadays is to do a movie that appeals to 13-year-olds.
Yeah, but see, the sad thing is, the movie comes out, it's in the theater, and 2 weeks later, it's on TV or it's on streaming devices that you pay for. So I'm like going the day of and I like going to the theater, getting my lemonade and my popcorn and sitting there and, if you haven't done it ever because you're young, you ought to try it sometime. It's pretty good.
Yeah,
it's a lot of fun. Except now the popcorn's dry because. Or it's over buttered, one of the two, because it's not fresh anymore, because they don't have the volume of people going.
I go back to the days, Bill, when they had the machine that it literally popped the popcorn right there in the machine, so it couldn't get any fresher. Nowadays, it's a little depressing. They had these big, it looks like large stuffed pillows of popcorn, and they come in and they rip open the bags and they dump the popcorn into the machine and pretend that it was just popped there.
You know what I used to love to do? I did a morning show at a couple of stations, but I remember in Memphis, somebody one time, they said, "What are you doing now?" I said, "I'm going to the movies." "Oh, who are you going with?" "Me." "Oh, that's so sad and lonely." I'm going, what? "No, I'm going to the noon matinee, because there's a movie out that I want to see, and pretty much I have the whole theater to myself, and I got my popcorn, and I got my big lemonade,
so
and I'm in heaven." Yeah.
And people, they talk to you like it's some kind of a social event. You should be going with a group, but you're going to a big dark room, no one's going to see you, and you're going to be staring at. I don't feel comfortable going to the theater anymore.
Well, yeah, I get it.
I
always hated going because I always got behind the person that sat there that wouldn't take off her hat. And it was a big, tall hat.
With a feather.
And then she's sitting there next to the kid on her left and the old man on her right, and she's going...
And, of course, you were very tolerant about that, weren't you?
No, I'd sit there and I'd lean over to nobody and go... And then you get that look back, and it's like... Yeah, you shut up.
Well, it doesn't make a lot of sense to me. If you have like a 55-inch TV screen in your house with 4K video or 8K video, I don't see the advantage of going to the movies. For example, I mean, let's face it, you can get up and you can put the movie on pause and make a walk to the latrine, and you don't miss anything, Whereas if you do that in the movie theater, you may miss the best part. How many times have you figured, is now a good time to leave? Okay, I'm gonna go now, and you run out thinking, I'll be back before anything happens, and you come back in and they're playing the end music. What happened? Well, you missed the best part. So-and-so popped out of the chair, and that was the end of the movie. I don't know. I think that the best way of watching a good movie is in the comfort of your recliner in your own house, but that's just me. Anyway, I think we have just about done it, my friend. I've run out of stuff. Have you got anything you want to add? Anything you want to talk about before?
No, I think we covered all the stories. I'm looking here. I'm going to do a quick perusal. But it looks like we've gotten everything that I can see that is of any interest. Tim Waltz. You heard about him. He was at a veterans event in Minnesota, and they booed him. Well, stolen valor, I remember a few years ago, so I'm an old war vet and all that. And no, you're not, So, yeah, he got booed. The veterans, because he wants to make a run in 2028, and I'm going like, good luck with that, Timmy.
Well, I think he has about as much of a chance of winning as I do. Mm-hmm. But let him think it. Let him go out there and...
Well, the Democrats have really got a field of contenders. I mean, you got Gavin out there that thinks he's going to... Gavin actually thinks that he is in charge of the country right now with his... he was going to negotiate tariffs. I think Trump just blew that dream up yesterday.
Yeah.
AOC thinks that she can do it, but Operation Let Her Speak, let her talk, because when she opens her mouth, I'm not even going to do that dig. Let's just say she opens her mouth and she
inserts her foot. That's what she
did. Yeah, and she's definitely, and Crockett is trying to, do her thing, and
she's mind-boggling. I don't understand where she's coming from, Bill, because she has got a pedigree education. She grew up in Westchester County, I believe, or some maybe it was in Westchester County, but it was a high-end county, and she had a good education, and she tries to pretend like she's from Watts. It doesn't make any...
We ain't going to go out and pick cotton no more. Well, let me tell you something, sweetheart. You might want to get your black history together because you're posing. And, the average black person, what she did was embarrassing for anybody that's black. And she's a poser. She came from well-to-do, and she's talking like she's from the hood and talking down and getting her facts wrong, and I'm like going, that's just embarrassing. She is an insult to human life.
I think you've pretty well covered that, Bill. I can't add to that. With that, I think I'm going to back away and let you take us out of here.
I will. Hasta la vista, baby. We're out of here.
This is CRN America.